Fortunate Me by Katherine Ng and The Fortune Teller by Malini Gupta use inviting and unassuming forms to draw us into important and challenging truths. Let's open up these fortunes and explore the stories they reveal to us. Katherine Ng is a book artist, printmaker, and arts educator based in Southern California. Her letterpress prints and artist books often explore Chinese culture and her Chinese American identity. Across her work, she draws viewers in through intriguing forms that challenge the structure of a book. Fortunate Me is housed in a pink bakery box, modeled after a dim sum takeout box from a restaurant Ng frequented. She incorporated many symbols associated with Chinese and Asian American culture. The box features a dragon, which traditionally represents positive attributes and good fortunes in Chinese culture, such as power, confidence, warmth, and ambition. The title is lettered in a style often known as a chop suey display font. Created and popularized in the US during the mid to late 1800s, such lettering has long been a visual shorthand for anything East Asian. Modern graphic designers generally consider fonts like this to be outdated and even offensive, yet the style persists in effectively conjuring stereotypes many of us hold. Fortune cookies are also an invention of Asian Americans. Inside this box are 7 paper fortune cookies, nestled into perfectly fitting compartments. They are unassuming and inviting. Inside each one is a slip of paper, just like one you would receive in an edible fortune cookie. Printed on the interior of the paper cookies are responses to the fortunes, written in Ng's voice. It becomes clear that the fortunes contain advice she received from her father. The fortunes offer words of guidance, wisdom, or support. Ng's responses give a sense that it's not so easy to just follow such suggestions when one is struggling to understand and manage their depression. Ng pulled her father's words directly from the letters he wrote to her as a young woman in the early 1980s, when she was navigating depression as a high school and college student. After isolating the quotes, she reflected on what they were about before printing everything in handset metal type. We don't normally see the inside of an edible fortune cookie. Opening up these paper cookies brings us into Ng's interior monologue, shedding light on her pain and confusion. While Ng's responses convey struggle and uncertainty, her father's words maintain support. In these few short sentences, I sense a father trying to understand and help his daughter. In the face of her difficulty with her mental health, she seems fortunate to have such a pillar of support. This leads me back to the title, which suggests how much the depression is consuming her. Reflecting Ng's fondness for wordplay, however, we can see how close it is to reading Fortunate Me. Ng has noted that growing up as an American-born Chinese person, depression wasn't discussed. It was a taboo subject. The final cookie doesn't offer a tidy resolution or a necessarily happy ending. A diagnosis and medication, however, appear to be a step forward. Both Ng and her father seem to approach this step with practicality. Inside each cookie in Fortunate Me, Ng has created a concise dialogue between 2 voices to share an intimate story of her depression and her reactions to her family's efforts to navigate it. She presents these as gifts to the rest of us, passing along her own experiences and wisdom. Originally from India and now living in Portland, Oregon, Malini Gupta is a book artist and graphic and web designer. Her work in these spheres influence each other, and she approaches them both through a storyteller's lens. Her artist books are deeply personal, often exploring themes of women's rights and the realities of patriarchal societies. The Fortune Teller is Gupta's fact-based and deeply personal exploration into the harms resulting from entrenched gender biases in Indian society. A folded paper fortune teller suggests innocuous play. A toy like this is traditionally played with by children, and depending on choices they make, different fortunes are revealed. Gupta's version was created with waxed paper infused with the smell of incense. It features the 4 planets used in Vedic astrology to write a person's horoscope at birth. These 4 planets represent karma, knowledge, intellect, and love. Their placement suggests that these are the types of fortunes we will discover. When we open one of the panels, however, we find stark realities about the different treatment and perception of boys and girls in Indian society. You're a liability because you're a girl. You will be insecure because you're a girl. Gupta describes traditions, statistics, and prevailing beliefs that lead to violence against girls and women. In contrast, boys lead a privileged life, with entitlement embedded in the patriarchal and patrilineal customs. Gupta lays out some of the many reasons having a son offers social and economic benefits over raising daughters. Girls are a burden. The childhood mortality rate for girls far exceeds that for boys. Sexual abuse is reported at alarmingly high numbers, and most often perpetrated by someone the child knew, often a close relative. Opening this paper toy, it becomes clear that the fortune foretold at your birth depends on whether you were born a boy or a girl. A slender book accompanies the fortune teller. The thread used in this binding is considered highly auspicious in Hinduism. It is used in religious ceremonies and is believed to offer protection to ward off negative energy, misfortune, and illness. The cover of the book, like the outside of the fortune teller, was directly inspired by the designs on Vedic horoscopes created for babies soon after birth in India. Here is Gupta's personal story. Her grandmother's reaction to her birth sets an inauspicious stage. In contrast to the density of information in the paper fortune teller, this book is minimal. Weight and emphasis is given to the single line on each page. The lines move down the paper as Gupta relates the stark difference between her brother's birthday celebrations and her own. But the injustice of simply being born a girl isn't just about presents and birthday parties. It's far more insidious and dangerous. The type gets smaller. It is an impactful reflection of her shrinking sense of self and value in her family and society, and acknowledges the difficulty of bringing up her abuse. The final shocking and heartbreaking sentence contains both her deeply personal story and recalls everything we've learned in this piece about society's mistreatment of girls. Before the colophon, Gupta's endnote speaks to the space she affords her mother and to her own vulnerability in making this work. She closes with the importance of talking about and recognizing the harms in Indian society, and a call to action to unite women to effect the needed change. Gupta shared with me that her work is a way to process her traumas and give form to her experiences. She said, "Writing this book was also my way of reclaiming my voice and sharing a deeply personal and painful experience. I felt compelled to tell this story because my abuser told me not to." Fortunate Me and the Fortune Teller entice us with familiar forms, but the disarming playfulness of these structures deepens the impacts, of these artists' personal traumas and hardships, and shines a light on the responses from their families and society.